All right. Very good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar we're hosting together with HubSpot and Radiant. The topic today is hybrid sales. So we'll talk about both hybrid sales process and also hybrid sales people. My name is Mikko. I'm one of the co-founders of Vainu. Vainu is a company data platform. And then together with me today, we have Joachim from Radiant. Radiant is a premium HubSpot agency based in Copenhagen, Denmark, and also Sharon from HubSpot. We have 45 minutes. We'll discuss hybrid sales all together. If you have any questions that you want to ask from us, feel free to use the chat function that you can see in the control panel. But why don't we start with brief introductions so that you know who are the speakers today. Maybe you can go first, Joachim, and then we continue with you, Sharon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mikko. Nice to meet you all online. I'm Joachim, I'm the CEO of Radiant. We do HubSpot and sales as a service. I have a background from Deloitte and a former both Salesforce consultant and now turned 100% HubSpot ambassador. So that's pretty much it.
Thanks. And then you, Sharon.
Good morning, everyone. Calling in from Ireland. So apologies in advance if you hear some drilling. I have tradesmen here that I didn't realize were coming today. I thought they were coming yesterday, so apologies in advance. But as Mikko says, my name is Sharon. My name is Sharon Murnahan. I represent HubSpot. I've been with HubSpot for nearly 9 years, and I am a channel account manager there. For those of you who don't know, HubSpot is a full platform offering marketing, sales, services, CMS, and operations. And we are in the business of helping other businesses grow their business. So thanks a million for joining us here today. I hope everything is valuable to you, and we'll kick in and get started with everything else.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joachim and Sharon. And as I said, my name is Mikko. I'm one of the co-founders of Vainu. Vainu is a company data platform, so we provide interesting insights about companies and then also connect those insights and data and information with other systems such as HubSpot. I feel that the best person to walk us through the concept of hybrid sales and hybrid sales process is Joachim. That's what you do for living, for your customers, and also I know that you have been teaching this topic at Copenhagen Business School. So why don't you take it off and explain the concept of hybrid sales?
We're also going to talk a little bit about why hybrid sales, and we're going to make another poll asking you why it's important. And we're going to have a discussion here as well. And that will be it for today. But let me just ask both you, Mikko and Sharon, quickly, what is hybrid sales to you?
Do you want to go first, Sharon?
Yes, because I have no drilling for this moment, so this is perfect for me. Oh, no, there they go. Apologies. Anyway, for hybrid sales, I suppose for me as an individual contributor in a sales quota carrying role, the ability to connect quickly, respond fast, and build relationships with my prospects and my customers is really key. As I mentioned earlier on, I'm a channel account manager, so I'm responsible in HubSpot for managing relationships with partners, for delivering on net new sales and upsell of existing sales, for handling client accounts and maintaining healthy business relationships. Now, all of this happens in an omni-channel world because that is the way customers want to buy. So me as an individual contributor need to be able to respond to that need of the customers. I need to be able to continually add value to my prospects and customers, and I need to do it in an efficient, timely, and proactive way. So for me, having the ability of a hybrid sales is critical in order to fulfill on my responsibilities to my prospects, customers, and partners.
Excellent. The first time when I sort of saw the phrase or the term hybrid sales, it was quite recently, or at least the moment when I started to pay attention to it. I was doing the annual B2B sales trends blog post. So once a year, we always talk about the trends in B2B sales. And I saw McKinsey study or research paper basically saying that hybrid sales is really the way to go. And when I did some research on the topic, for me, it's really those basic concepts of it. So it's that sales is definitely omni-channel, because buyers, they prefer different channels, and as salespeople and as sales teams, we need to be able to serve customers and prospects in those channels that they prefer. I think it's also the fact that nowadays a lot of things can happen in digital channels, and you can actually be active with your own pipeline and with your cases without having phone calls or meetings all the time with them. There's lots of other things you can do and help customers and prospects to move forward in the sales pipeline. So that's hybrid sales for me. And I guess next, Joachim, you'll talk about the right answers, right?
Yeah, and thank you very much. They're not really correct answers, but just for me to get started here, because actually unknowingly, back when I started Radiant and had the idea in 2017, I knew that I wanted to digitize and structure sales to enable and increase conversion for experts within B2B. That was the idea. So unknowingly, I was working towards hybrid sales, but the concept of hybrid sales, at least here from me, myself and Radiant, has only existed for like 2 years. But let us discuss it further to show what kind of indicators there are to hybrid sales. So when you're going to decide or know whether you're using one sales process or the other, there are some typical indicators that you need to be aware of. First of all, you have the perceived risk from a client perspective. And this is a very important case because the higher the risk, the more value, the longer time you need to add to the sales process. The client involvement is also really important, and the amount of stakeholders deciding whether or not you have one type of sales process or the other. So the higher involvement, typically you have more and more stakeholders, especially now in the current environment, whereas the younger generation, they typically want to be included and have a say when purchasing a product or service. Then you also need to look at the product complexity. So is it easy to understand for the client? And in that relation, the price is also very important. So in general, you have it like the higher the price, the longer the process, and the more interaction and touch points you have during the sales process. And this is also a factor you need to include in regards to the product transparency and comparability. So when it's easy to compare, you have a high transparency typically, and it's easier to drive through a faster sales process. Then you also, of course, have the different kind of channels deciding whether you have one sales process or the other. And you need to look at it from a purchasing perspective, from a buyer perspective. What do they prefer? And we will talk a lot about that today. And of course, also the number of touch points during the sales process, not only to one stakeholder, but to multiple stakeholders. And you, of course, will also need to be looking at the segment, the market, so deciding whether or not what kind and type of client you're going to market to. So these are the typical indicators deciding if you need to go transactional sales process, hybrid sales process, or relational sales process. But of course, there are many other type of indicators. And I know, Amigo, do you at Vainu, do you look at other type of indicators when you decide whether you have one type of process or the other?
Well, this is an excellent list of indicators, I feel. And maybe the one thing that I have in my mind is that the sales process you're using might change over time. I remember when we started Vainu in the early days, like that was 7.5 years ago. The product was fairly simple. It was an online platform where you log in to do searches. So basically, it was a prospecting platform, very powerful, but it was doing just one thing. No integrations, where we didn't have an API, we didn't have file deliveries, we didn't have all these new features. So it was fairly simple. And then I guess the process that we applied back then was quite transactional, short sales cycle, and fairly low price point, and also the segment was lots of SMBs that ended up doing business with us. But now when we have been developing the platform and the product, there are more opportunities that you can do with the platform. So then it's definitely moving sort of up in that sales process map, so to speak. So now we're applying hybrid sales process, and sometimes when we're working with the really big enterprises, I think you could also define it as a relational sales process. So it might change over time.
Yeah, that's super and very interesting. Thank you very much, Mikko. So speaking of sales process map indicator, let's have a look at the how it differentiates itself, the hybrid sales process for and from, for example, relational sales process and transactional sales process. So if you look at this map, so at the top of it, it is high client involvement, high risk, high complexity, and typically with low transparency and low comparability. If you look at the bottom, you have a lower client involvement, lower risk, lower complexity, and high transparency and high comparability. And typically you use a lot of different channels. At the right, it is about your unique selling points and value proposition, as well on the left. So in general, at the right, you will have a more hard-minded motivation from a client perspective. So you will probably include USPs like features, price, integrations, for example. Those are more harder, informative USPs. And on the left, you will include more softer, so creating a purpose, making a difference, creating an impact, serving the client well, for example. Those are more softer USPs and VPs. So let's have a look on how they differentiate itself. The relational sales process is typically on the top left. So this is the high involvement, high risk, high complexity, low transparency. You cannot see what is the exact price, how does it work, and it can be both in regards to products and with services, of course, and platforms, for example. And you will typically base the type of motivation and USP and VPs in relation to know-how, in relation to relationships, in relation to more softer values of creating an impact, for example. And then you have on the bottom right the transactional sales process. So this is a very, very transactional sales process, low complexity, low risk from a client perspective, low client involvement. You have fewer touch points. If you even have any human interaction and human touch points, you use a lot of different channels to reach out, and you have a high level of comparability. But you typically also talk a lot about features, product pricing, rather than any other sort of VP and USP. And in the middle of it all, you have the hybrid sales process. So the hybrid sales process, they use different aspects. They both use human interactions, a lot of touch points, a lot of channels. You have comparable pricing, but again, you can't really compare it. You have some sort of transparency, but you don't really want to have full transparency. And this is where hybrid sales really exceed and excel. So you can both have focus on the more harder values, product, pricing, features, and also include creating an impact, creating a difference, having a mission, having a vision that actually resonate for the buyer and for the client. So this and these are the main differentiators. So before we go any further, I think, Mikko, you have a poll for us today that we need to answer, right?
Yes, so I'll launch the poll. It's a very simple one. I know that you might use all these sales processes at the moment, but if you had to choose one of them, so which one of these sales processes are you using or applying the most at the moment? And keep in mind, we're not saying that a hybrid is always the best approach. It really comes down to those indicators that Joachim just shared. I can see that 65% have already voted, so please, all the others, pick one of the followings, and then I'll close the poll in a moment. Now I closed it, and I'll show you the results. So you should see the results in front of you right now. 47% said hybrid, 40% relational, and then 14% transactional. Any quick comments and thoughts, Joachim and Søren, about the results? Are you surprised?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised at the amount of users of hybrid sales, but again, we experience a lot of clients that are using both the relational, the hybrid, and the transactional in one case, but differentiated within different segments, within different silos or departments of their business. So again, surprisingly well, but people are interested in hybrid sales here today, so that's good.
Yeah, I like these results. I think it's interesting to see how high relational is, and again hybrid as well. I think when the three of us got together before, we did talk about a lot of companies are already doing hybrid and not really realizing that that's actually what it's called. I do think the relational is very high, and it needs to be high because people will always buy from people that they trust and have built a relationship with. And I think the figures around the transactional are quite interesting as well. The fact that part of the hybrid model is to have transactional plus relational. The transactional at 14% here, it does make sense as well, because the whole purpose of hybrid is to meet customers in the way that they want to buy. So back to the grids that Joachim showed there on the bottom right, where you would have the transactional, help customers self-serve themselves if that's what they want to do. And then I wonder, if you were to look at the value that's attached to those, the transactional, would they be smaller value? Would the relational be higher value? Because the higher the value of the item, the more important the relationship is. And then if you match that in with the hybrid, the hybrid working can enable the transactional sale at the lower value to enable people to be self-sufficient, so that the sales team can then upsell and build on that relationship to become the relational sale, which is the 40% that we see here.
Yeah.
One thing, because as I mentioned, sometimes you have to, or you want to sort of change the sales process you're using. I feel that there are lots of companies, maybe they start with transactional sales process, and then at some point they realize that they want to go up market towards the enterprise sales and more relational sales process, and that change might be super difficult, because without you even realizing it, maybe the transactional process is in the DNA of the company, and there's lots of things you just happen to know how to do them, and then that change ends up being quite challenging. I feel that in a way we have experienced that with Vainu. So when we started with transactional, then you realize that you need a different methodology, different playbooks, also different tools and technologies to go up market. And at the same time, there are quite a few also enterprise companies that are now thinking if they could apply this product-led growth PLG methodology, and they want to create a free tier or also some sort of like a low touch sales process. And I feel that they also experience difficulties quite often. It's surprisingly difficult to change, that you really need to invest time and effort in building it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's at Radiant, we work with client, I would say like 70% of the times we actually convert from a relational sales process to a hybrid sales process. And typically in the start, they are very reluctant in changing the process, because they think they need all the touch points, all the human interactions, but actually you can change it, but it really takes time and adjustment in the behavior, but we'll get back to that. So you can see the screen now again, the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Super.
You see it.
Great. So let's talk about the drivers. Why are we talking about hybrid sales even? So when you look at the left, buyers, they want to purchase through omni-channels. So sellers need to go hybrid selling, and this have an effect on each other. And just to quote McKinsey, since you also quoted McKinsey before, Miko, I will do it as well. So as purchasing goes from omni-channel, sales model will go hybrid. It's pretty relevant, I think, at the moment. So let's have a look at the drivers more specifically. So of course, the remote work, the COVID is a very important factor. So when you're sitting at home, when you're sitting in different areas, so I'm at the office right now, Miko, you're at the office, Sharon, you're in Ireland at home. So it's very a very important factor driving this to go more digitized, to have a further and enhanced tech stack. Then you also have, like, as surveyed from McKinsey last year, so 20% of B2B buyers surveyed said that they will increase spend a lot. They will actually spend more than $500,000 through purely remote and digital buying experience. And that's a huge change if you look at the past 2 years. So that's a very important driver. And you also have 2/3 of buyers that are actually now preferring remote human interactions and self-services. So a lot of your clients, they will actually prefer meeting you online or through self-service or through any other of the channels that we're going to go through today. Then the number and timing of touch point is also very important, a very important driver. So when flexibility increases from the remote work, you need to talk and have interaction and touch points on different times of the day, night even. And you of course also have the involvement of stakeholders. I said this before, but it's very important to know that when you have more involvement nowadays, more stakeholders, it's typically because of the involvement that the younger generation wants to be included when decision making. So the total mass of involvement increases a lot. And this is really important for the sellers to adapt. And how they adapt it at the moment is that 83% of B2B leaders, they believe that omni-channel is a more successful way to prospect and to secure new business than traditional selling. So the most of us out there working within B2B and sales as leaders, we believe that omnichannel is just more successful. Quite interesting. So the remote work is of course also a very important factor, and the scalability as well. And we'll talk a bit about the scalability and the sales efficiency. But another interesting fact. So in regards to the organization, this has something to do with the remote work and the COVID as well. So 28% of B2B organization, they now have hybrid sales roles included and implementing in their organization right now. And 85% expect that hybrid sellers, it will be the most common roles within sales by 2024. That's a very interesting fact. And why is this? We will show you on the next slide in regards to the hybrid sales process, but also the agility and the different types of responsibility you will have as a hybrid seller is just interesting, but we'll get back to it. And speaking of recruitment as well in this environment, it will also be very important that if you have a more agile way of working, maybe you can recruit even better talent. And then of course the segment and fit is also very, very, very important factor. So all of this is actually the drivers of hybrid sales we see today. But a sales efficiency, that's a huge statement. Sharon and Miko, do you have any idea why? Why is it more efficient with hybrid sales?
Yeah, I have quite a few ideas why that could be the case. I mean, if you think of today's technology that allows all the salespeople to be active in many channels. I mean, right now we're discussing in this webinar, but still there's lots of things happening in the sales pipeline. I mean, it might be that I have some prospects visiting our website at the moment. And I'm of course keeping an eye on that. I get notifications when they go back to the pricing page. I might have some proposals out there, and I do get notifications when they open up those proposals. Also, the very basic demos, I don't have to do them myself. I can just make sure that there's a video available on the website. So I think all those things combined, it's not always just one-to-one communication in sales, but I can also do one-to-many, meaning that I can, well, increase sales efficiency, and also it provides a platform for scalability. However, I think it actually puts new sort of requirements for sales talent. Back in the days, maybe it was fine if you knew the product you were selling and you were good at communicating over the phone. But nowadays, I think you need to be also, maybe you want to be active in social, you need to be good at writing. Maybe you are using videos a lot, you need to feel comfortable being in front of videos, and so on. So I think there's lots of new skills that you also need to acquire if you really want to benefit from the hybrid sales trend.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So Sharon, any input here in regards to you and HubSpot?
Yeah, thank you for jumping in there, Mikko. There was a drill going on in my ear just when you asked me that question there, Joachim. So from, as an individual contributor perspective, the hybrid sales model is, again, as I said before, the ability to respond quickly to prospects, to see those notifications, to, we all know in sales that time kills deals, so we don't want that to happen. But also at the same time, we also, and particularly in the hybrid working environment that we're all in, and HubSpot does offer us the privilege of choosing where we want to do our best work. We can choose at hybrid, which would be to be half in the office or half at home. We can choose at remote, which is to be fully remote, wherever you feel you do your best work. Or we can choose to be at office, which is to be in the office 3 or more days a week. So the ability for your companies to give you the option to the location of where you want to do your best work will then match with the technology that hybrid sales brings in to do that work. And the technology centers around things like Mikko was saying, having a good, robust CRM. And, we use our own CRM in HubSpot, the ability to create the deals, the ability for me to see what my sales activities are, the ability for me to set up my tasks so that I never arrive in to the office or into my sitting room as I am today. I never arrive in and start my day wondering, oh, what the heck am I going to do today? No, my day is either mapped out because I have created the tasks, or the technology has enabled prospects and customers to shop and buy the way they want to shop and buy. They've either purchased touchlessly, I know there's the drill, or they've...
It's okay, Sharon, because we need to move on, but thank you very much for the example. I know you really enjoy the hybrid working, and we're going to hear more about it just in a minute. So let's have a look at the hybrid sales process. So this is a B2B example for a SaaS company here in Denmark. So they have an average deal size basket of around 70,000 Danish kroner a year, and they market to companies exceeding 50 employees. So this is quite a typical hybrid sales process. Simple, although you have the human interactions, you have the human needs among the process. So if you have a look at the first part of it, you will see this is quite the regular lead process, the SDR. We're not going to talk about marketing today, so let's exclude that. We have the lead process, the SDRs evolving the opportunities, qualifying them, approaching the clients, etc. And then you have the hybrid seller. So the hybrid seller is the string marked with gold, and you can see that the hybrid seller goes even deeper, even further below and down in the starting of the sales process, but they also work together with customer success, with the experts, including the experts when needed in the demo, talking with the experts when you need to adjust the offer, when you need to adjust the deal. So this is the hybrid seller working below, working at top, working a lot of parts on the horizontal part of the sales process. Very interesting and agile way of working. Then, of course, you need, throughout these different areas of the sales process, you need an infrastructure. So typically at Radiant, not typically, only at Radiant, we work with HubSpot in our ecosystem. But the ecosystem can be any CRM, any automation platform out there. But of course, today we prefer using HubSpot. So you need to get aligned with your CRM and your automation system throughout all parts of the process. And we'll talk more about that later. So, Mikko, one of the areas when prospecting is the data enrichment, but also the data enrichment throughout the process of the hybrid sales. Can you explain to us why is it important?
Yes, it was roughly 10 years ago. I lived in San Francisco back then, and I was selling to the US market, and it's roughly 60 million legal entities, meaning companies in the US, and obviously then choosing which ones to go after plays a very important role in sales success. So many opportunities, and I'd like to make sure that I'm working with the best ones. I wrote down a sentence back then that would be so nice to be able to walk into the office every morning knowing that I have a list ready for myself, that these are the very best opportunities that I should take action today. And it's one of the reasons why we ended up building Vainu, because nowadays you can connect Vainu with HubSpot. For example, we also use HubSpot, and we have connected Vainu database with that. So first of all, finding the segment I want to sell to. I want to sell personally a lot to SaaS businesses. I know SaaS companies pretty well, so it's a good segment for me. Also payments, for example, such a great segment for us. And obviously I needed to have that type of profiling data in HubSpot, and that's why we developed at Vainu a system called Vainu Custom Industry that is profiling companies super well, and I bring that data into HubSpot. But then I'm automating the whole prospecting thing. So we have this feature called workflow triggers. So basically every time when Vainu detects a new ideal customer for me, maybe it's a new company that SaaS business that just implemented HubSpot, that's the trigger event, and it automatically creates a task inside HubSpot. So I don't have to really do any prospecting. There's a SaaS business, they implemented HubSpot, that's the trigger event for me because we implement so well with HubSpot, and then the task gets created automatically for me and for my colleagues, so that when I start my day, I have a task waiting for me saying that, hey, there's a new ideal customer and they just implemented HubSpot. This is the approach you should be using. It's time to introduce yourself. And I think when we always talk about increasing level of automation, I think that is automation, because all that happens automatically, that I have those tasks waiting for me. And when I look at the conversion rates with that type of discussions, completely different than just doing some cold outreach, because I always have reason. It's very easy for me to open up that discussion. I have the talking points ready. So that's a good way to automate the work for SDRs and BDRs.
Absolutely. Amazing, Mikko, and you're definitely right. I know you said to me the other week, when you're going into work, you actually now know that there are automatically drivers, automations that tell you what you need to do, because it's very relevant for you in the morning. So you just keep on going. So that's really, really cool. And something I would like to add is the data input. So when having the hybrid sales process, all of that data automatically scraped through Vainu will create a data enrichment throughout the process, and of course also delete some of the manual work. So we all, if you out there also working within sales, you all know it's very, it's not that enthusiastic to report your data in the CRM. Let the platforms do that manual work for you.
To jump in there, I think the ability to use data to qualify your prospects all the way along the sales pipeline, so that you are then, as a salesperson, always dealing with good qualified prospects. Will enhance and accelerate the conversion from the prospect to the customer, because you have that data to support the conversation all the way through.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you also look at some of the areas of the sales process, omni-channel is a very important part of hybrid sales. So hybrid sales is reaching out to clients on their terms, on their timely manners, into their preferences. So you need to include it and integrate it into your hybrid sales, into the infrastructure. So these channels are typically both website, of course, chat. You have the SoMe channels, especially like LinkedIn in the B2B market, you need to integrate. You have, of course, the physical meetings. Then when you leave the physical meetings, you need to take note automatically what happened, what did not happen. And you, of course, have the emails when you're going to approach the clients. You have the regular phone. We're also using that still. And you have the video. So taping a video of a pitch with the client in the background and you pitching towards the client, so that you save the amount spent of prospecting and getting ready to demonstrate value of the client. You can actually just tape the video really easily into through the infrastructure of HubSpot in this specific example, and the client will see it when they get home, during the night, during the morning, when it suits them. And you also, of course, have the usual meetings, so online, Teams, Zoom, for example. These are all areas that you need to approach, and you need to communicate with your clients and with the customers. This is what they expect, and you need to have it integrated in the infrastructure. So another area I want to highlight is the demo. You can call it meeting, demo, whatever. So a meeting or demo in the year of 2022 is also very different than just 5 years ago. So what is a demo? What is a meeting? So now you have channels like the partner channels. And I know Sharon will talk a bit more about this later. So you have partners working with you. You need to integrate that channel also when conducting the demo or meeting. You have the regular physical meeting that a lot of you still prefer, and you have also the videotape demo, and you have regular Teams or Zoom meetings that you all know. So these are some familiar areas that you need to integrate. But there are also new ways of working that are getting more and more traction now. So you have like a bundle demos and demo sessions. A lot of companies are now using this just to discover and explore for the clients. So you bundle up maybe 15 prospects that are not really that mature in the sales process, and you set a timely manner that next week, 9 o'clock, we will have 1 hour demoing our software, demoing our product, that you can all see at the same time and share experience and challenges together. Then you also have interactive demos. So you use interactive demos even both at a self-service level, but also when having the hybrid seller together with the prospect. So these are softwares like Walnut, and I know, for example, Mikko, you at Vainu are already having are considering interactive demos. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think the main idea is that when you keep adding new features and capabilities, for example, we do have quite a few integrations, and they're pretty detailed because they have to be if you want to do the integration right with CRMs and marketing automation systems. So I don't think it's fair to expect that every salesperson knows all the ins and outs. So it's actually with these new tools that are out there and available, you can make, yes, the demo more interactive, but it also helps the salesperson to structure the demo. Maybe you don't need to know all the details yourself, but you can also use some pre-made sort of workflows, almost like onboarding tour for new customers, but that same concept applied to a sales meeting, that you have something pre-made and then you just run the tour for them. And that helps you especially if you're demoing something you don't know in and out, because there are so many capabilities and details these days. And as you mentioned, Walnut is one good provider of that type of technology.
Absolutely, and you've all experienced that you really just want to see the software, you want to see the product, you don't want the demo, you don't want the meeting. Interactive demos allow you to do that, but still on a very conversion good manner. So typically the sales of hybrid sales processes is just very hybrid, very fluid between hybrid seller, between the SDR, between customer success and the experts. And they all communicate together with the clients, but through HubSpot, for example, as the infrastructure, and a very coordinated way of communicating, but they can ad hoc and agile reach out to the amount of stakeholders directly. And integrated within this platform is all the ways of channels that you can access the clients and what they actually want. So this does not get unstructured. The data is still there. You don't have to worry about it as long as you integrate it into your tech stack and infrastructure. Then it works absolutely great. But now let's just have a look at some more data. So at Radiant, we've assessed more than 6,000 sales processes, a lot of them hybrid sales, and we have some averages. So the hybrid B2B sales data we have within professional services, B2B tech and B2B SaaS, is that you can reach 33 weeks from prospect to win, 25.3% win rate, and of course a high level of meeting conductions, and around 8,000 in average deal size in ARR in euros. But you can have a look at this on the PDF you will receive. So at the end, why go hybrid sales? So we will have a poll, but I think we should wait with it, Mikko, due to the time. But why go hybrid sales? So the hybrid sales process reaches the buyers. The hybrid sales process requires something, and when implemented the right way, you will gain something. So hybrid sales process reaches the buyers at the right time, at the right manner, with the right message, through the right channels, on the terms of the client. The hybrid sales requires a design for the clients and not for your own products. So when you choose whether or not you go with one type of process or the other, it must fit the client, not your product. Then you also need to train your team, your digital sales behavior. So a lot of behavior needs to be changed if you use omnichannel. It's very difficult to actually include it on a structured level if you don't have a playbook, if you don't have training, if you don't have focus on it. So my advice would be try to have some focus on training the team, making sure they are accustomed to video pitching, to interactive demos, etc. And then you also need to invest in buyer data and tech. You need to make sure you have the right tech stack and you have the simplicity you need. And when you do this, when you implement it the right way, well, then you improve sales efficiency. You improve the sales insights, the data quality, the data accuracy throughout the process, because these channels are digital. You will gain more data, so you can gain more insight and thereby improve better. So this enables the scalability and the omnichannel, and you will get a higher customer and buyer satisfaction. Remember, 2/3 of buyers, they actually prefer these omnichannels, so you will actually get happier clients. And remember, your competitors, they're already gearing up for this, and your clients, they prefer it. So, Mikko, what do you think? Do you have anything to add here? Should we have the poll? What do you want?
Let's do it. Let's have a poll. So
cool.
Now, if you think of what's needed to have a hybrid sales process and the people, I know that most likely all these things are priorities for you. But if you again had to choose one of them over the others, like what is the top priority this year among these options when it comes to increasing sales? Is it about improving the sales process, maybe implementing hybrid sales process playbook, or is it about training the team in digital sales skills, for example, or more about investing in the infra in buyer understanding and technology that allows you to orchestrate all that? I can see 65% again have voted, so please put in the final votes, and then I'll close the poll and share the results. So I'll do that now, and you should see the results. So many of you, I don't know if the fact that we've been discussing it and the past 50 minutes and the process, and now 45% feels that it's the top priority is about improving the sales process, and then 1/3 that training the team is the top priority, and then 1/5 saying that investing in buyer understanding and technology. Saren, what are your thoughts, comments regarding these results?
Yes, I think, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great, okay, no drilling. I think these results make perfect sense, and it shows that the attendees here today, and thank you guys all for investing the time this morning, are keen to future-proof your organizations and by improving your sales process to adapt to the way that buyers want to buy or customers want to buy, which is through omni-channel purchasing. So for us and for all organizations, we need to improve the sales process so that we meet the buyer where they want to be met. And in order to enable that, training of the team is important so that they can become that hybrid seller. They can be that fast responder. They can be that relationship builder, or the customer can buy in a transactional way. And then investing in buyer understanding and technology, that will wrap around number 2 and 1 already. I think that makes perfect sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm really excited that you find the topic very important. We do as well at Radiant when we're implementing simple processes like the hybrid sales process. Our primary challenges is the simplicity, making it simple. So excluding a lot of the tech stack, choosing the right tech stack, integrated through the same process throughout, and including marketing as well, that we haven't been discussing today. And then of course the training, the behavior of it. So you need the management to go behind it. You need to support it, and you need to train. And then my last suggestion will be for us people that are used to and accustomed to the traditional ways of selling, you need to allow them to explore, to discover the new ways of doing it. It is structured in the process, but it can seem unstructured, but it is still structured. So allow them to have their channels, allow them to explore it. So I guess that is pretty much it for today.
Yeah, a couple of last things. So because I know that most of us, we have meetings starting in 8 minutes. So a couple of last things. If you want to access the deck, it's in the handouts. I think you should be able to get it directly from there. We will also send you a questionnaire. Always nice to hear some feedback. It doesn't take long to answer, but we would appreciate it a lot. Also, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, for example. All these things can be tried out very easily. If you want to discuss the process and how to develop that one, I'm sure Joachim and his team are more than happy to have a meeting with you. If you want to try out the things that I mentioned about Vainu automating tasks in HubSpot, for example, finally, there's a free trial available also for Vainu. And I remember HubSpot has had free trial quite some time, so it's also very easy to try out that one. Saren is willing to help with any HubSpot related questions, and of course I'm all ears and open for questions regarding data needed to orchestrate all this. But thanks a lot everyone for joining. Recording also will be available if you have colleagues who want to check it out. But I think that's it, and I want to wish everyone an excellent week, and thank you once more for joining us today. And thanks also, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Thank you all.
Thank you. Enjoy your
Great
day.
day.
Thank you. Yeah, bye. And remember, invest in hybrid selling. See you all.